Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Recently got asked, what are these pipes? Why, it's an air escape, of course. Let's roll the credits. Obviously, visitors on the ship who are able to ask me something in a language that I understand can read that this is an air escape. Where's the air escaping from? Why are we letting it escape? Nobody escapes from the battleship. So, you see pipes like these all over the ship. And I absolutely love that by the 1980s, the Navy has stenciled what everything is on absolutely everything. The wires here have a tag on it. The pipes say what they are. There's a Bakelite tag on this. You can know nothing and walk onto this ship and somebody says, hey, go check out that aeroscope. And you can find it. You don't need any sort of special technical knowledge. That was not the case in World War II. This sort of labeling doesn't show up until much later in the ship's career, based on pictures that we've seen and experienced with other ships. World War II era museum ships have very little stenciling around the inside of the ship compared to an 80s, 90s era ship like this. My predecessor used to always say, let the ship talk to you. Like if you think you're about to come up with a question, go and look at it, and it probably already has the answer on it. If not, it probably has enough information on it that you can go to a manual or something else around the ship and get the rest of the information you need, whether that's a compartment checkoff list or a manual, blueprint, something like that. So, what is this specific set of air escapes? The air escapes come out of our liquid-loaded tanks, primarily our fuel tanks that are along the side of the ship and the bottom as part of our underwater explosion defense, our torpedo and mine defense. Those tanks are normally completely sealed up airtight. That way the fumes from the oil, everything else isn't coming into the ship. But it means that as we are sucking the oil out of those tanks, as we're pumping the oil out of those tanks, are we then like doing what happens when you crush a soda can? You suck all the air out of a soda can and it just implodes, except with 1.5 STS? No, they have air vents in them that allow air to come in as the fuel is drawn out, or water if it's boiler feed water or drinking water, depending on what kind of liquid loaded tank. Likewise, as we are pumping more fluids into that tank, let's say we're topping off our fuel tanks, the fuel is going in, well, we don't want to create a pressure vessel where now we're building up the air pressure in that tank and we can't fill the tank with oil because at a certain point, the air pressure pushing the oil out is greater than what the pump is able to push in. So each one of those tanks has a pipe like this that runs from the inside of the tank all the way up to the deck of the ship so that air can escape as you're pumping fuel into it. See? Figured it out. Or be drawn into it as you're pumping the fuel out of the tank. So what is to keep this from letting water into these tanks? Obviously, if you mix water with your fuel or you mix seawater with your drinking water, this causes all sorts of problems. So up on deck level, these come out and they make these, they often are about 4 or 5 feet tall, and then they form a J on top. They're J pipes. And that way, the opening is on the bottom here, so rainwater isn't coming down. Most waves aren't going to be able to work their way up that pipe and then all the way down. But the air, of course, can escape out that piece of cake, no problem. If any of you guys have ever built a model of the ship, you've probably noticed, as long as it's not a really small scale model, you've probably noticed that all these things are like printed as little raised details on the side of the ship. If you're one of those like rabid foaming rivet counters who sands the plastic models flat and then uses like brass piping to replace this, you really know where every single one of these are. That is a whole level beyond what I've ever done. But I've certainly seen guys who have made models like that. We have, as a museum, encountered problems with these because the wood deck is built around them. The wood started to rot, which is then holding water against these pipes. The deck of the ship might be 1.5 STS, and it might be very rust resistant. However, these pipes are probably just Schedule 40, maybe Schedule 80 mild steel. So they rust out very easily, especially at that edge of where the teak is, where the water sits up against the steel. So as we've been replacing the wood deck, we found that many of these are holed, and we have had to patch them or replace them with something new. Or in some cases, we've capped them off because they're so completely rotted out. Many of ours had broken off entirely. What happens when this happens and they break off? All that rainwater runs down into our tanks. And so when we do our soundings every year, check the link in the description below for a video we've done on soundings in the past. When we do our soundings every year, sometimes we'll find one of these tanks is just randomly filled with fresh water. Not filled, but has fresh water in it, and it didn't the year before. Well, what happened there? It was one of these pipes opened up and allowed that rainwater to run down into the tank. So this is one of those things that we're keeping an eye out for. It was one of those things that made it really important that we redeck the ship. We are still $400,000 short of finishing the project. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to donate. There's also a link in the description below to our store where you can buy pieces of the ship's deck. You buy a piece of that deck, and all that money goes back into the restoration of the deck. So it supports our ongoing restoration. I know of at least one modeler, speaking of raving, foaming rivet counters, which I say in the best way possible in this case, who bought a piece of teak from the deck and microplaned it down so that he could put a real New Jersey teak wood deck on his 1/350th scale model of New Jersey. So that's something you can do if you are so inclined with the teak from the ship's deck. Anyway, what's another obscure feature you'd like to see us talk about? Let us know in the comment section down below, or come on board and visit and ask a question about a really random thing that I've walked past 1,000 times but never really thought about. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to continue donating to support the museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.